Welcome to Wife Cheating Story. I hope you have an enjoyable and relaxing time listening. Let's get started.
My name's Grant Ellis, and I remember the night it all began, not with a bang, not with an affair caught red-handed, not even with a lie. Just dinner, pasta, her favorite wine. One quiet Tuesday in our Chicago apartment. If you had asked me then if I trusted my wife, Harper, I would have said yes, without hesitation. We'd been married 7 years. 7 years of compromise, inside jokes, Sunday pancakes, and late-night Netflix arguments over what to watch. She was smart, stylish, full of drive. I was the guy who kept the fridge stocked and made sure the Wi-Fi never cut out. We worked. Or at least I thought we did. That evening, she sat across from me, fork twirling noodles like it was just another weeknight. But I noticed she was unusually cheerful. Her eyes lit up every time she looked at her phone, which she kept face down but close by. Halfway through the meal, she said, "Oh, by the way, the annual retreat's coming up in 2 weeks." I looked up. "The company one? The lakeside thing you told me about last year." She nodded, sipping her wine. "Yeah, same place. Different tone, though. They're doing things a bit tighter this time, no plus ones allowed." I blinked, chewed slower, trying to process that. Really? That's new. Last year, she practically begged me to come. Said it was the only way she could survive 2 days of marketing buzzwords and fake smiles. Said it'd be fun. Apparently some people brought their spouses last time and made it awkward for the rest. So this year, the firm decided to make it strictly employee only, she added quickly. She shrugged, as if it was no big deal. I nodded and kept eating. I didn't press it, because what reason did I have not to believe her? It was a company event. I don't work there. These things happen, right? Companies tighten policies. Maybe someone's husband got drunk and embarrassed a client. Maybe some wife insulted the creative team's pitch. Who knows? Still, something in her voice didn't match the words. Not exactly a lie, but something careful, polished, like she'd rehearsed it. I don't even know how I noticed it. Maybe it was the little pause before she spoke, or the fact that she didn't meet my eyes until after she said it. Or maybe it was just instinct. You live with someone long enough, you start to hear not just what they say, but what they choose not to say. I remember asking her casually, "So what's the plan then?" "Friday to Sunday." She nodded, biting into a garlic knot. "Yeah, just 2 nights. Everyone's got a room booked at the resort already. We're doing these team bonding exercises, some presentation thing, a wine tasting, apparently. You know, standard corporate retreat fluff." She rolled her eyes, made it sound ridiculous. But I caught the glimmer in her eye, like she was secretly excited. "You don't even like wine tastings," I said, half laughing. She smiled. "Yeah, but the setting's pretty. I'll send you pictures." She got up and started clearing plates. I sat there watching her, something turning slowly in my chest. That was the moment. I didn't know it then, but that was the fork in the road. After dinner, she poured herself a second glass of wine and curled up on the couch with her laptop. She was browsing dresses. I leaned over, saw the tab open, resort wear. Designer stuff. Pricey stuff. I made a joke, something like, "That's an awfully fancy look for a no-spouses, team-building getaway." She laughed, didn't miss a beat. "We're doing a photo shoot for the firm's rebranding stuff. They want us looking good for marketing shots. And the founder's bringing a photographer, so it's a whole thing." "Oh," I said. Didn't realize it was that kind of retreat. She shrugged, already switching tabs. They always overdo things. You know how these people are. I went to bed a little later that night, after she'd fallen asleep on the couch with her laptop still open. I didn't check it. I'm not the snooping type. I just closed the lid and kissed her forehead, same as I always did. But lying there in bed alone, something settled in my gut. A dull thud. Like walking into a room and forgetting what you came for. That feeling of being a little off balance. I told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe I was. She hadn't done anything wrong. She said she loved me that morning. She thanked me for fixing the shower head. She sent me a dumb TikTok in the afternoon. What more do you need in a marriage? Still, I replayed the conversation over and over again in my head. Her choice of words. Her tone. How quickly she moved on. It wasn't guilt. Not exactly. But it wasn't openness either. It was something, crafted. Like when a kid rehearses an excuse before you even ask what happened. The next day, she forwarded me her itinerary from work. Flights, resort booking, confirmation numbers. Everything looked legit. Still, she was more excited than usual. The way she described the resort, the view, the glamping villas, the menu tastings. It wasn't just a retreat. It was a weekend she was clearly looking forward to, and I wasn't part of it. She even mentioned how she had to get a wax and a facial before she left, laughing like it was nothing. That night, we watched a movie and she fell asleep with her head on my shoulder. I remember looking down at her, peaceful, breathing softly, and I wondered why that gnawing feeling in my stomach wouldn't go away. Was it jealousy? Was I feeling insecure for no reason? I told myself it was probably just me overthinking things. That this was the cost of trusting someone completely. You don't get to ask every question just because something feels off. So I kept quiet. I didn't want to be that husband, the controlling, insecure, overthinking husband who makes something out of nothing. And besides, Harper wasn't just my wife. She was my best friend, my partner. We'd built a life together. That had to count for something, right? Right? The morning before she left, I woke up to the sound of her humming in the bathroom. Light and cheerful. She was applying mascara with a precision I hadn't seen in a while. Her hair was already done in soft curls, her favorite travel tote zipped open on the bed, half packed with everything she could possibly need for just 2 nights. I leaned on the doorframe, brushing my teeth, watching her in the mirror. You're really going all out for a company retreat, huh? She glanced over her shoulder, playful. What? A girl can't look good for her colleagues. I chuckled, but something about the way she said colleagues made my molars grind a little. I kept my tone light. It's just heels, makeup, the dress you bought last week. Doesn't exactly scream trust fall and team PowerPoint. She turned to face me, brushing a curl behind her ear. Babe, we're doing a full group dinner at the lodge's ballroom. It's part of the rebrand. Cameras, videos, all that. We're basically supposed to look like walking ambassadors for the company. I nodded, rinsed my mouth. She made it sound so corporate, so official. And yet, I watched her slide that black satin number into her suitcase with a care I hadn't seen in a long time. She wore that same dress the night of our 5th anniversary, reserved, elegant, backless. I remember helping her zip it up that evening. That night, she looked at me like I was the only man in the world. But now, she didn't even ask my opinion on how it looked on her. She just folded it in neatly between a pair of fresh lingerie sets and a bottle of perfume she hadn't used in months. You packing light? I asked, eyeing the second pair of heels she was trying to squeeze into the corner. She laughed. Light for me. It's only 2 nights. Then she zipped it shut like it was no big deal. Around noon, she called a rideshare to the airport. I offered to drive her, but she waved me off. Don't worry, I've got it. No need to waste gas and circle the terminal. I walked her down to the curb anyway. She gave me a quick kiss, quick, like she was late for a meeting, and adjusted her oversized sunglasses as the car pulled up. Don't forget to feed the succulents, she said, smiling. And maybe take a break from takeout. You promised to cook at least 1 meal while I'm gone. I laughed, forcing it. I'll see if I remember how the stove works. She reached up, cupped my cheek. Love you. I said it back, of course. Then she slid into the back seat, her phone already out, typing away. I watched the car pull off down our tree-lined street, her outline slowly disappearing behind tinted windows. Something in me said this wasn't just a work trip. I didn't know what it was exactly. Just something. Back inside, the apartment felt a little too still. I made a sandwich and tried to dive into work. I'm a web developer. I work remote, mostly freelance. That Friday was light. I had 1 client call and a couple bug fixes due, but nothing that kept me truly distracted. I ended up doing laundry and rewatching an old comedy I used to love. It didn't land the same. I kept thinking about that black dress, the perfume, the way she had smiled, but never quite looked me in the eye that morning. By evening, she hadn't texted once. I wasn't expecting a play-by-play, but Harper was never shy about updates. She'd usually flood my phone with photos of whatever meal she was eating, the layout of the hotel room, some dumb meme someone sent in the group chat. That was her thing, sharing her world with me, in pieces throughout the day. But this time, nothing. So around 8 p.m., I sent a simple text. Hope you got there safe. Resort look as fancy as you expected? I waited. 5 minutes. 10. Nothing. I went to make coffee, came back to the couch. Still nothing. At 9:12, my phone buzzed. It was a photo, one of those scenic types, looking out over the lake at sunset. It looked like a postcard. Peaceful, perfect. I stared at it for a moment before she followed up. Sorry, just got settled. Dinner was amazing. No phones allowed at the tasting, LOL. I replied with a thumbs up. No questions. No comments. Just watching and waiting. She didn't message me again that night. Saturday morning, I woke up and found her Instagram story. It was the first post I'd seen since she left. A slow pan of the breakfast spread. Cappuccinos, croissants, mimosas clinking. I tapped through it, and on the fifth slide, I paused. There she was, laughing, leaning in slightly across a white-clothed table. The camera was shaky, probably taken by someone sitting beside them. But there was a man in the frame. A blurry shot, half-cropped, but I could see the tan blazer, dark stubble, and short-cropped hair. She was angled toward him. I zoomed in, something in my chest knotting hard. It was familiar. Too familiar. The angle wasn't clear, and I wasn't about to spiral over a silhouette. But suddenly, the dress, the makeup, the perfume, none of it felt like coincidence. I tried to shake it off. Maybe it was just a coworker. Maybe it was the founder's son or some new hire she hadn't mentioned. But still my gut whispered another name. Zane. I hadn't heard that name in years. Harper's college boyfriend. Her first real heartbreak, she once told me. He had been older than her, suave, charming, the kind of guy who always seemed like he knew a secret you didn't. She had never really gone into detail, but she'd mentioned how he'd reached out once or twice, just to say hi. Over the years. I never asked more. Now though, I had a bad feeling I should have. I spent the rest of that Saturday trying to pretend everything was fine. Cleaned the apartment. Caught up on a backlog of invoices. Ordered Chinese and watched 2 hours of mindless YouTube. But every time I picked up my phone, I felt that silence. That space where her voice should have been. That energy I couldn't explain. She didn't call that night either. I laid in bed, staring at the ceiling, counting ceiling fan rotations, wondering what was going on in a resort room a few hundred miles away. Wondering who she was with. Wondering if I was being paranoid, or if my instincts had just started to connect the dots. It was 11:27 p.m. when my phone buzzed on the coffee table. I was halfway through a rerun I wasn't really watching, sitting there in the same hoodie I'd worn all day, finishing a lukewarm beer that tasted more bitter than usual. I didn't expect anything important, probably an ad, maybe a system update reminder. But the moment I saw the name on the screen, my stomach twisted. Micah. We weren't close friends or anything. Just one of Harper's coworkers I'd met a couple times, once at her company's holiday party and again during a double date we did with a few people from her office. Nice guy. Tall, glasses, always seemed like he was trying not to get involved in drama. So when he texted me, I paused, then opened it. The message was short. Hey, man, thought you should see this. There were 3 photos attached. No context. No emojis. No lead-in. Just photos. I tapped the first one. My fingers started to tremble almost immediately. It was Harper, sitting beside a man on a wicker lounge chair by the resort pool. Late evening. String lights glowing above them, wine glasses half full on the small table between them. She was wearing that black satin dress, legs crossed, smiling not at the camera, but at him. Him. I recognized him instantly, even though I hadn't seen his face in person in almost a decade. Zane. Same sharp jawline, same smug grin like he'd just told a joke and didn't care if anyone else laughed. His body was angled toward her like she was the only person in the world worth looking at. I sat frozen, my thumb hovering over the second image. I didn't want to see more, but I had to. The second photo was worse. They were standing closer now, at the edge of the pool, under one of those oversized resort umbrellas. Zane was holding a drink in one hand, and the other was casually draped over her lower back. Harper leaned slightly into him. Just enough. Not enough to make it scandalous, but enough to make it intimate. The kind of lean you do when you think no one's watching. The kind that tells you everything without saying a word. I felt something in my chest go tight, like I'd swallowed a fist. The third photo? That one broke me. It showed the two of them walking side by side toward the villas, away from the party, away from the lights. Zane's blazer was slung over his shoulder. Harper's hand was on his arm. No other coworkers around. Just the two of them, disappearing into the shadows with no one in sight. And then Micah's follow-up text came through. She told everyone you had food poisoning. That's why you couldn't come. I stared at those words for a long time. My mind couldn't wrap around them. Food poisoning? I never even told her I was sick. Because I wasn't. Because I was supposed to go. Because I had asked her. She looked me in the eye and said, they banned +1s. And now she was telling people I was sick? I tried to stand, but my knees felt weak. Like someone pulled the floor out from under me. I stumbled into the kitchen, grabbed the edge of the counter. I wasn't breathing properly, just short, Shallow gasps, like my lungs didn't want to believe what my eyes had seen. I opened the fridge, grabbed another beer, but didn't drink it. Just held it. Cold. Wet. Reality. I wanted to scream. Punch something. But I didn't. That's never been me. I'm not the dramatic type. I'm the guy who stays calm, works things out, keeps the peace. But right then, I didn't feel like any of those things. I felt like a man watching his life get rewritten in real time, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. She lied to me. That was the part that hit hardest. Not the dress. Not the poolside intimacy. Not even Zane. It was the lie. She kissed me goodbye Friday morning, told me she'd miss me, and then turned around and told her coworkers I was too sick to come. A lie she crafted, packaged, and wore like perfume. And Zane? The same guy who once broke her heart. The one she said made her feel like she was never enough. The same Zane she swore she never spoke to anymore. And now he's at the retreat? Arm around her waist? Walking her to a villa? I didn't text Micah back. I couldn't. Not yet. I sat in the kitchen for what felt like hours, the beer eventually warming in my hand, untouched. I kept pulling up the photos again and again, hoping the lighting would change, that I'd see someone else in the frame, that it wasn't what it clearly was. But it was. I thought about calling Harper, just straight up dialing and asking her what the hell she was doing. I even typed her number in, thumb hovering over the call button. But I didn't, because if she answered, I knew she'd lie again. And I didn't want to hear her voice while knowing she was somewhere else with someone else, especially someone who used to have her heart. Or maybe still did. Instead, I scrolled back through our texts from the past few weeks. The dinners we shared. The plans we made. That time we went to Home Depot together to pick out nursery colors. She wanted muted greens. I preferred something brighter. We laughed about it, compromised. We were building something. Or so I thought. And now? Now I was looking at pictures that felt like a wrecking ball through that future. I went to the bedroom and sat at the edge of the bed. Her pillow still smelled like her shampoo. There was a half-folded sweater on her side. She'd left in a rush and said she'd pack light. That sweater hadn't made the cut. I picked it up, held it in my hands, then tossed it aside and lay back, staring at the ceiling. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. Just floated in and out of anger and disbelief. My mind replaying every moment we shared over the last few months, trying to figure out where it all shifted. When did she start talking to Zane again? When did she start planning this? How long had I been sleeping next to a woman with one foot out the door? And the worst part? I still didn't know what to do. I wasn't the guy who walked away without a word. But I also wasn't going to sit quietly while she made a fool out of me. So I decided something that night. I'd wait. I'd let her come home. And when she walked back into this apartment, I wouldn't yell. I wouldn't accuse. I'd give her a chance to lie one more time, with calm eyes, with all the evidence already in my back pocket. Because sometimes, the quietest confrontations cut the deepest. I didn't sleep much that night. I just laid there, blinking in the dark, waiting for my mind to settle, but it never did. My thoughts kept rewinding and fast-forwarding like a tape I couldn't pause. Around 4 a.m, I finally closed my eyes for a bit, but the sleep was shallow or restless, filled with half-formed dreams, and the glow of those photos burned into the back of my eyelids. By the time sunlight crept through the curtains, I was already up, sitting in the kitchen with black coffee and 1,000 questions I wasn't sure how or if I'd ever get answered. My phone sat on the counter, face down, like a loaded gun. I didn't want to look at it, but part of me couldn't help but wonder if she'd message, if she'd pretend everything was normal. And just like that, around 10:13 a.m., her name flashed across the screen. Harper. I stared at it. The call rang 5 times before I picked up. I wanted to sound steady, unaffected. Calm was my shield now. Hey, babe, she said, light and sweet like nothing had happened. Sorry I didn't text last night. It was so packed, full day, then dinner, then a wine tasting. We couldn't bring phones to half of it. Everyone's totally exhausted. I held the phone in silence for a few seconds, letting the sound of her voice settle in my ear. She sounded cheerful, too cheerful, like she was reading from a script. But I didn't challenge her. Not yet. Yeah, Fina. She laughed softly. Tell me about it. I barely even got to sleep. But the lake is beautiful. I'll send you pictures later. I wanted to say, don't bother. Micah already did. But I didn't. I let her talk. Let her build her world of perfectly curated lies one brick at a time. I asked, so how's the no spouse rule working out? She paused, just for a beat. Barely enough to notice if I wasn't listening closely. It's a little weird, honestly. Everyone misses their partners. But it's tight quarters, like I said. They're really pushing this whole team bonding thing. Pretty corporate. Makes sense, I murmured, wondering if she realized how carefully she was choosing every word. Anyone from your old teams there? Another small pause. A few people. Yeah. It's mostly the newer crew. We're all mixing around. I could feel it, how she danced around my questions without answering them. How she was deliberately vague. Avoiding names. Avoiding details. I knew Zane was there. I knew she had spent the evening with him. But I wanted to hear what she'd say when she wasn't forced to explain. Do you remember Micah? I asked suddenly. She hesitated longer this time. Micah? Oh, yeah. From accounts. Why? Just curious. Haven't heard you mention him in a while. Oh, yeah. He's here, somewhere. Haven't seen him much. Lie number one of the day. I kept the call short after that. Told her I had a project to finish. She promised she'd call later. I said, sure, then hung up and set the phone down. My hands were steady. My breath was even. But inside, I felt like I just sat through a performance. A carefully rehearsed play where she played the loving wife and I played the fool. I spent the rest of the day pacing. I didn't call Micah again. I didn't want to make him feel like a spy. He'd already done more than I expected. But his silence since last night told me he probably regretted getting involved. Still, I had the photos. I had the truth. That was enough. By late afternoon, I'd started looking through our phone plan, shared data, call logs, texts. Nothing too invasive, just the basics. And there it was. A number I didn't recognize at first, but soon confirmed. Zane's. I remembered it from back when we were dating, back before Harper and I were even engaged. I'd seen it flash on her screen once. She'd said, oh, that's ancient history. He texts once a year. I never reply. But according to the records, 15 calls in the past month. 3 days before she left, a call that lasted almost an hour. The night before the retreat, 47 minutes. I didn't even feel angry at that point. Just numb. Like my body had absorbed all it could, and now there was just silence. An empty hallway with nothing left echoing inside it. I tried to think about what I'd missed. Signs. Clues. But Harper hadn't changed that much on the surface. She still smiled when we made dinner. Still asked about my clients. Still kissed me goodnight. But now that I looked back, I saw the cracks. The late-night emails. The weekends she said she needed to clear her head. The sudden need for solo time that she never used to crave. And worst of all, the way I convinced myself not to question it. That night, she didn't call again. No check-in. No miss you. Just silence. I could feel the pressure building behind my temples. Not rage, just resignation. I was watching the end of something, and she was pretending it wasn't even happening. Around 11:45, my phone buzzed. I grabbed it without thinking. Micah again. Just one line. You deserve to know more. Call me if you're ready. My heart skipped. I tapped his number immediately, and he answered after the first ring. His voice was low, cautious. Listen, man. I wasn't going to say anything else. I thought the pictures were enough. But I can't sit with this. I know it's not my marriage, but it's eating at me. I waited. He went on, that guy, Zane? He wasn't supposed to be here. He's not part of the firm. Harper pulled some strings to get him added last minute. Said she needed a strategic consultant for one of the brand campaigns. I didn't respond. I couldn't. Micah continued. People noticed them. The way they sat together. The way they left things early. It wasn't subtle. And when I asked Layla, she's on the PR team, stayed in the villa next to them, she said she saw Harper sneaking into Zane's suite. More than once. I closed my eyes, jaw tight. She even heard Harper say something like, we shouldn't, but it still feels right. There it was. The confirmation I didn't ask for, but needed. I thanked him, voice quiet, then hung up. I didn't cry. Didn't scream. Just sat there in the dark, staring at the wall. She had chosen him. Not just for a moment. She'd planned it. Coordinated it. Lied to me in layers. And now, she was likely lying next to him in some polished villa under a canopy of designer guilt. And yet, she called me that morning. Acted like I didn't know a thing. But I did. And she was going to find that out very, very soon. The thing about betrayal is that once you see the first crack, your eyes can't stop scanning for the others. You begin to realize how much of what you accepted was just noise meant to distract you from the truth. That's what the next few days felt like. Like someone had finally turned the lights on in a room I thought I knew. And suddenly I saw the stains on the carpet, the dust in the corners, the shadows that didn't belong. After that call with Micah, I sat in the living room, still, for what felt like hours. My hands were cold even though the room was warm. I'd heard everything I needed to hear. But there was still a part of me, a small, stubborn part, that needed to see it for myself. Not because I didn't believe him, but because I needed Harper's mask to fall in real time. I needed to know how far she'd go, how much of the truth she'd deny even with her hands red and dripping. So I started gathering. First, the phone records. We shared a plan, always had. I'd never once checked it before. Never needed to. But now I looked at it like a map. Each call, each message, a small pin on the route she'd taken to build a separate life. Zane's number stood out instantly. I recognized it from when we were still dating, years ago, when she'd saved it under Z before deleting it after one too many drinks brought out some honesty. I thought it was gone. But it was back now, 15 times over the last 3 weeks. Twice on nights when she said she was staying late at work. Once during a weekend, she told me she was with a friend at a spa. And longest of all, the night before the retreat. 53 minutes. That's not a check-in. That's a conversation. A prelude. Then I logged into our shared email account. She didn't use it much anymore, but every so often, things still got forwarded there. There wasn't much, but one thread caught my eye. A reservation confirmation sent a week ago for a private dinner at the lakeside restaurant in the resort. For 2. The names weren't listed, but the email came from her corporate inbox. I dug deeper, cross-referenced the timestamp with her text history. That night, she had texted me, going to bed early, so tired. Talk tomorrow. I almost laughed. She'd probably been getting dessert when I read that message. At this point, I wasn't collecting evidence to convince myself anymore. I was preparing. Quietly. Deliberately. I printed the phone log, highlighted every call to Zane. I printed the reservation, screenshotted the photos Micah sent, compiled everything into a neat little folder and slid it into the drawer next to the coffee table. Then I packed a bag. Not to leave, but to clear my head. I needed distance. I texted my brother, Troy, told him I was coming by for a few nights. He didn't ask questions. He just said, bring beer. Troy lived 30 minutes outside the city, in a 2-bedroom place with a messy porch and a fridge full of leftovers. He was the opposite of me in a lot of ways, gruff, impatient, allergic to emotional conversations, but he'd always shown up when it counted. That first night, I sat on his couch, watching a baseball game I couldn't follow, barely touching my beer. You gonna tell me what's going on, or should I guess? He said eventually. I took a breath. Harper's cheating. He blinked. Wait, what? I told him everything about the retreat, Zane, the photos, the calls. I laid it out piece by piece like I was giving a report. No emotion, no tears, just facts. He didn't interrupt. Just leaned back, jaw tight. When I finished, he rubbed his face and muttered, damn. I always got a weird vibe from her. I almost smiled. Everyone says that after the truth comes out, weird in hindsight always looks like prophecy. He looked at me. You sure it's not just old flames catching up? Maybe it got a little blurry, but not full-on cheating. I shook my head. She lied to me. Multiple times. Told people I was sick so she wouldn't have to explain why I wasn't there. Snuck around. Hid it all. Fair enough, he said. So, what now? That was the question. What now? I didn't know yet. I just knew I needed her to come home. I needed to hear how she'd twisted. Because whatever came out of her mouth would tell me everything about who she really was, not just the cheater, but the liar. The one who built a lie and smiled through it. Who kissed me on the cheek while texting another man under the table. Troy let me stay in his spare room. It was dusty and smelled faintly of old pizza, but it felt safe. He didn't hover, didn't prod. Just checked in now and then and let me sit in my silence. While I waited, I got another message. Micah again. This time, he sent a voice memo. I hesitated before hitting play. Layla's voice came through, low and serious. I know I shouldn't be saying this, but Harper was in Zane's room more than once. Everyone kind of knew, but no one said anything. She told me they had unfinished business, that it was just a spark, and she didn't want to overthink it. I don't know what she told you, but I wouldn't trust a word of it. That was it. I sat there, holding my phone like it might explode. My ears burned. Not with rage. Not even hurt. Just a deep, dull sense of finality. This was real. No more doubts. No more guessing. This wasn't emotional confusion. This wasn't nostalgia. It was betrayal wrapped in lipstick and backless dresses, planned weeks in advance and served behind my back with a side of lies. She had made her choice. All that was left now was for me to make mine. So I drove back Sunday afternoon, let myself into the apartment, and sat in the living room with that folder beside me, waiting for the sound of the key in the lock, waiting for her voice, waiting for the mask. Because when she walked in, I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to let her lie to my face one last time. And then I'd show her just how well I had been listening. I heard her key in the door at exactly 6:42 p.m. I'd been sitting on the couch for almost an hour, the evidence folder placed neatly on the coffee table in front of me like an unopened gift. I didn't move when I heard the doorknob turn. Didn't flinch. Just waited, quiet, breathing slow and steady. The door creaked open, and then I heard her voice. "I'm home," she called out, sing-songy, like it was just another Sunday. She stepped inside, wheeling her small black suitcase behind her. Sunglasses perched on her head. Lipstick fresh. Nails done. Her hair was pulled up in a loose bun. A look she always claimed was effortless but took 20 minutes of mirror adjustments. She looked polished, relaxed. A woman returning from a well-earned weekend. I stayed silent. She walked a few steps into the living room and paused when she saw me sitting there. I watched her smile falter just slightly, barely enough to notice if you weren't looking for it. But I was. "Well, hey," she said, dropping her keys into the bowl by the door. "Didn't expect you to be home so early." I didn't respond. Just watched her. She gave a soft laugh, the nervous kind people give when silence goes on too long. "What's with the serious face?" she asked, toeing off her shoes. "You look like you've been waiting for a trial to start." She didn't know how true that was. I nodded toward the coffee table. "Why don't you take a seat?" She raised an eyebrow. "Grant, what's going on?" "Just sit," I said, quieter now. "Please." She looked at me a moment longer, then slowly walked over and sat down on the edge of the armchair across from me. Her posture stiffened. Her smile vanished. That sixth sense kicked in, the one liars develop. She knew something was coming. I reached for the folder and placed it in front of her. "What's this?" she asked, already wary. I didn't answer. I just sat back and waited. She opened it. The first thing she saw was the printout of the phone records, Zane's number highlighted in yellow. Then came the dinner reservation confirmation, the photos Micah had sent, and finally, a transcript of the voice message Layla had sent to Micah. I had typed it out word for word, black ink on crisp paper. Her hand hovered over the last page. She didn't look up. The room was so quiet, I could hear the slow tick of the clock on the wall. When she finally did speak, her voice was flat. "You went through my phone records?" I let out a short breath through my nose. "That's the part you're going to open with?" She didn't respond. "You told me I couldn't come because they banned spouses," I said. "Then you told your coworkers I had food poisoning. Meanwhile, you were drinking wine with your ex-boyfriend and sneaking into his room." She closed the folder slowly, as if that might somehow make everything inside it go away. She stared at her hands in her lap. "It's not what it looks like." "Don't," I said, calmly. "Just don't start like that." She looked up at me, eyes glossy but not yet crying. "Grant, I didn't plan for it to happen. I didn't expect to see him. Zane was a last-minute addition to the guest list. He's working with the branding firm as a contractor now. It all moved fast and you lied." I cut in, my tone sharper now. "You looked me in the eye and told me I wasn't invited. You kissed me goodbye and walked into a weekend with someone you clearly hadn't finished with. You had a plan. Don't dress it up like an accident." She swallowed. Her throat visibly tensed. "Nothing happened until Saturday night." I laughed once, humorless. "So it took 24 hours before you betrayed me. That's supposed to make me feel better." She shifted uncomfortably in her seat. "It was a mistake. I didn't sleep with him. I didn't believe that. Not for a second. But I didn't press it. I didn't need every detail. I already had the truth that mattered." "It's not just what you did," I said. "It's how deliberately you hid it. The lies. The rehearsed stories. The way you came home today and acted like everything was fine. Like I was just your husband waiting here to ask how the wine tasting went." Tears started to gather in her eyes now, but I wasn't moved. I'd seen too much. Felt too much. "You could have just told me," I said. "You could have said something was missing between us. You could have said you weren't happy. I would have listened. I would have fought for us. But you decided I wasn't worth honesty." She covered her face with her hands, her shoulders starting to shake. "But I didn't reach for her. Didn't move an inch. I didn't want to lose you," she whispered. "Then why'd you risk me?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She didn't answer. We sat in silence for a long moment. Her crying was soft but steady. The tears fell freely now, but it was too late. I'd already cried everything I had in private. Now, I was empty. Not angry. Not broken. Just done. She finally looked up at me again. What are you going to do? I leaned forward, hands clasped. I don't know what you think this is, Harper, but we're not recovering from it. This isn't a rough patch. This isn't miscommunication. This is you choosing another man, over and over again, and expecting me to stay quiet while you gaslight me. Her face crumpled at the word. You manipulated everyone. Your coworkers. Our friends. Me. And you would have kept going if Micah hadn't sent me those photos. That was private, she muttered. No, I said, shaking my head. What you did wasn't private. It was disrespectful. It was public. You paraded around that resort like you weren't married. So don't lecture me about privacy now. She looked at the floor, defeated. I'm filing for divorce, I said. Her head snapped up. Grant. I've already spoken to a lawyer, I continued. I'm not staying in a marriage where I have to guess if I'm the only one in it. She reached for me then, desperate. But I stood. No, I said firmly. You made your choice. I'm just making mine. She stayed seated, trembling, mascara running, but I didn't offer her comfort. I turned and walked to the hallway, grabbing my keys. Where are you going? She asked through tears. To breathe, I said. And when I come back, I expect you to have packed what you need. She didn't argue. She didn't beg. Because she knew. This time, I wasn't bluffing. By the time I returned to the apartment that night, the place was silent. Her suitcase was gone. So was the black dress she wore in the photos. Everything else? Still in place, untouched, like she'd just gone out for groceries. I stood in the entryway, keys still in my hand, staring at the quiet mess of our home. The photo on the wall of our anniversary in Cabo. The throw blanket she always claimed was her side. The potted plant she named Wilson and kept alive like it was a pet. It didn't look like a war zone, but it felt like one. I should have felt relief. She was gone. The confrontation had happened. I hadn't yelled. I hadn't broken anything. I had been calm, even righteous. But peace didn't come. Not yet. Because if I knew Harper, and after 7 years, I knew her better than anyone, this wasn't the end. This was just the first volley. And I was right. The first message came the next morning from a mutual friend, Elena. She was sweet, sharp, the kind of friend who always made the holidays easier. She texted, Hey, I just talked to Harper. She told me what happened. Are you okay? That was the first sign Harper was already spinning the story. I didn't reply right away. I wanted to see how far she'd go. I didn't have to wait long. 2 hours later, I got a call from Jason, another friend, one of mine originally, before he became one of ours. His voice was tense. Hey, man, I don't want to be in the middle of anything, but Harper called me this morning. She sounded wrecked. What did she say? I asked flatly. He hesitated. That you blew up on her over a misunderstanding. That she ran into her ex at the retreat and you assumed the worst. She said you threw her out and started telling people she cheated. I exhaled through my nose and smiled bitterly. There it was. The rewrite. She also said you went through her personal stuff. That you printed photos and made a scene, he added, voice cautious. And you believed her? I asked. I'm not saying I do or I don't. I'm just saying it's messy and she's hurting. I didn't bother defending myself. I didn't explain about Micah. The photos. The call logs. The lies. I just said, thanks for checking in, and hung up. By that afternoon, 3 more people reached out. Some asked if I was okay. Some asked why Harper was crying to them. Some hinted that I might be overreacting. She was fast, efficient, and clever. She didn't deny seeing Zane, but she framed it as innocent. A coincidence. A moment of temptation that I had turned into something dirty. She played the sympathetic. Grant, honey, what's going on? Harper just called. She said she's trying to talk to you, but you're shutting her out. I nearly dropped the phone. She what? I asked. She said you kicked her out. That she made a mistake, and you won't even consider counseling. I had to pause, rub my temples. She cheated, Mom, with her ex. She lied to me for weeks. Silence on the line. She didn't mention that part. My mother finally said, quietly. Of course she didn't. That night, I sat on the couch and stared at the blank TV screen. I felt tired. Not in my bones, but in my spirit. You'd think catching someone cheating would be the worst part. But no, It's what comes after. The retelling. The versioning. The subtle push to make you the villain in their collapse. Harper didn't just cheat. She crafted a counter-narrative. She knew me well enough to know I wouldn't scream or post online or shame her publicly. She knew I'd stay quiet. And she was using my silence to write a softer landing for herself. So I called Micah. When he picked up, I didn't ask how he was. I just said, "She's spinning it." He didn't sound surprised. "Yeah, a few coworkers have started talking. She said you overreacted. Claimed you were insecure about Zayn and blew everything out of proportion. And Layla, she's staying out of it. Doesn't want trouble, right?" I said. "Of course." He paused. "Do you want me to talk to anyone?" "No," I said. "That's what she wants. A fight. A messy breakup where no one knows who to believe. I'm not giving her that." I ended the call and sat there in the dark. But I wasn't defeated. Because in every lie she told, she revealed something. She needed to control the narrative. And that meant she feared the truth. So I changed my strategy. I gathered my own story, not for drama, not for pity, but for clarity. I wrote down a timeline of what happened, attached the phone records, the screenshots, the voice memo transcript. Then I emailed it, not to the world, but to the 5 people who mattered most. The ones caught in the middle. The ones being played like pawns in a chess match Harper had already rehearsed. The subject line was simple. You deserve the truth. No theatrics. No smear campaign. Just facts. I didn't accuse her. I didn't curse. I let the evidence speak. I ended the email with one line. This isn't about taking sides. It's about knowing where you're standing. After I hit send, I shut my laptop, walked to the balcony, and stood outside with the wind against my face. It was cooler now. The kind of breeze that makes you feel alone, but free. The next morning, I got a text from Jason. I read everything. "I'm sorry. I didn't know. Let me know if you want to grab a drink." Then Elena. "You didn't deserve any of this. I've blocked her. You're not alone." Even Layla messaged me privately. "If you need me to confirm anything, I will." I stayed quiet too long. One by one, the fog lifted. Not all of them responded. Some probably still weren't sure who to believe. And that was fine, because I wasn't trying to win people. I was reclaiming truth. A few days later, Harper texted me. "You've made your point. I guess you're going to tell everyone everything now." I stared at it for a while before replying. "No." I told them what I needed to. "You've said enough on your own." No response. And that was the moment I knew the tide had shifted. She wasn't sorry. She was cornered. And for someone like Harper, being exposed was far worse than being wrong. A few days passed. Quiet ones, mostly. No more texts from Harper. No surprise visits. No more mutual friends messaging me with concern or curiosity. Just a stillness that felt unnatural, like standing in the eye of a storm and knowing the winds would return eventually. I'd gone back to Troy's place for a bit, just to clear my head. I wasn't ready to sit in that apartment alone again. Not yet. Too many memories etched into the walls, too many ghosts sitting silently on the furniture. The longer I stayed away, the more I realized something. I didn't miss her. I missed the version of her I believed in. The one that never really existed. Troy had been cool about everything. We didn't talk about it unless I brought it up. Mostly, we watched games, grilled outside, and argued over which movie to watch. The normalcy helped. It made everything feel less apocalyptic. Then one morning, as I was sipping lukewarm coffee in his kitchen, my phone buzzed. Aiden. That name made me pause. Aiden and I went to college together. We weren't best friends, but we were tight enough to stay in touch over the years. More importantly, he was once roommates with Zayn. Back in the day, all 3 of us had ended up at the same party more than once. I hadn't seen Aiden in nearly a year, but we always kept things cordial. I answered on the second ring. "Hey man," he said, voice cautious but direct. "I hope this isn't weird." I straightened up. "Not at all. What's going on?" "I heard what happened. Through the grapevine. Some people from your circle, some from hers." I waited. "I wasn't going to get involved," he continued, "but Zayn was here in Denver last night. He came to a bar I go to with mutuals, and he was bragging. Bragging. That one word tightened everything in my chest. He said some stuff I think you should hear," Aiden added. "And before you say no, just give me a second." I didn't interrupt. I let him talk. He said Harper was always a sure thing, that they'd been texting for months, and that the retreat was their reunion. His words, not mine. Said they stayed up late in the villa, said he'd forgotten how responsive she was. Again, his words. Like he was proud of it. My hand clenched the mug tighter than I realized. Did he know you knew me? He didn't care, Aiden said. Honestly, I think he wanted to be heard. Like hurting you made him feel relevant again. I didn't say anything for a while. Just stared out the window at the backyard, the leaves barely swaying in the wind. Anyway, Aiden went on. I figured if I didn't tell you, I'd be letting that prick get away with his little performance. I know this sucks, but I thought you should hear it straight. I appreciate it, I said quietly. I really do. I'm here if you need anything, man. Seriously. When the call ended, I sat there for a long time. The anger didn't come like fire. It came like a slow flood. Cold. Heavy. Relentless. Harper hadn't just lied to me. She'd let Zane turn our marriage into a trophy he could show off at bars. That night, I couldn't sleep. So I went for a drive. City lights blurred past my windows, the roads nearly empty. I drove through neighborhoods we used to wander on weekends. Past the Thai place where we had our third date. Past the hotel where we'd spent our first anniversary. Past the little bookstore she used to drag me into on rainy Saturdays. Memories are cruel like that. They wait until you're calm, then sneak up with a knife in their hands. I ended up parked in front of our apartment. I don't know why I went there. Curiosity, maybe. Or closure. And as if fate wanted to twist the knife deeper, she was there. Harper. On the front steps. Alone. Wearing a gray hoodie and jeans, her hair pulled back, face pale under the porch light. I hadn't seen her in person since the night I laid the evidence in front of her. She looked smaller now. Deflated. I didn't get out of the car. I sat there for a moment, unsure of what to do. Part of me wanted to confront her. Part of me wanted to reverse, drive away, leave her there with her silence. But eventually, I stepped out. She looked up and froze when she saw me, then stood slowly. I didn't know if you were coming back tonight, she said, her voice shaky. I wasn't planning to, I replied. She swallowed, hugging her arms to her chest. I didn't want things to end like that. Like what? I asked. With you lying? With you sneaking around behind my back? With your ex turning our marriage into a bar story? Her eyes welled up. Aiden told you? He did, I said. And you know what? I'm glad. Because for a second, I almost believed your version. I almost thought maybe you were just lost. Confused. Now I know better. She didn't respond. I get that people make mistakes, I said. But what you did wasn't a mistake. It was a decision. A series of them. Over weeks. Months. And then, when you got caught, you lied again. And now you want to clean it up because the fallout's bigger than you expected. Her lip trembled. I'm not here to fix anything. Then why are you here? I asked. She blinked back tears. Because I didn't want to be the villain. You don't get to choose that, I said. You made choices. Now you live with the consequences. We stood there in silence for a moment. The wind picked up, rattling a nearby street sign. I signed the divorce papers, she said finally. They're in your mailbox. I'm not fighting you. I nodded once. That's the first honest thing you've done in weeks. She winced. Goodbye, Harper. She stepped forward slightly. Grant. But I shook my head. No. You said enough. I turned, got back into my car, and pulled away. I didn't look back. The envelope sat in my mailbox for 2 days before I opened it. It was there, just as she said, slid between junk flyers and an overdue water bill. Cream-colored, unsealed. My name written on the front in her handwriting, still neat and familiar, though I wished I couldn't recognize it anymore. I stared at it for a while before finally taking it inside and placing it on the kitchen table like something radioactive. I didn't open it right away. I didn't even touch it again that day. I just walked around it, the way you walk around a bruise that's too sore to press. The next morning, I tore it open without ceremony. Inside were the signed divorce papers. Every page initialed. Every clause agreed to. No red marks. No corrections. No requests for amendments or split hairs over assets. She had signed it clean. Quiet. Almost like a ghost wiping her fingerprints off the windows before disappearing for good. But beneath the documents was something else. A letter. Handwritten. 2 pages. Folded precisely in thirds. I didn't want to read it. Part of me was afraid it would undo everything I'd built in the last few weeks. The distance, the clarity, the calm resolve. But I owed myself closure. And if she had anything left to say that wasn't a lie or a performance, I needed to hear it. So I unfolded the pages and started to read. Grant, I know that no matter what I write here, it won't be enough. It won't undo anything. But I'm writing it anyway, not to win you back, not to soften the blow, but because I need to say something while I still have the chance to say it. You were good to me. better than I ever deserved. You were the calm I never knew I needed. The one who filled the dishwasher after I left dishes soaking, who made coffee exactly the way I liked it without asking, who learned the sound of my silence before I even understood it myself. I hope you know that I saw all of that. I hope you believe me when I say I noticed every quiet thing you did for me. And I broke it. I broke us. Not because you weren't enough, but because I didn't know how to be content with something that didn't constantly demand fixing. I didn't know how to sit in stillness without itching for chaos. Zayn was a bad idea from the moment he reappeared. I know that. I knew it then too. But when we started talking again, something inside me flickered. It wasn't love. It was nostalgia. A dangerous kind. The kind that tricks you into believing a past version of yourself was better than the present. And for a little while, I got lost in that illusion. I should have told you. The second it started. The second I felt something shift. I should have come clean. But I didn't, because I was afraid of what that would say about me. So I lied. And then I kept lying. And when you found out, I was still too much of a coward to tell you the whole truth. So here it is. Yes, I slept with him. Once. That night at the resort. After the wine tasting. After the music. After too much pretending. It wasn't passionate. It wasn't romantic. It was a mistake. One I regretted before the door even closed behind me. He made me feel young again, but when it was over, I just felt small. And dirty. And like I had done something I couldn't take back. Which, of course, I had. You were already packed in my heart when I kissed him. That's what made it so unforgivable. I'm not writing this to ask for forgiveness. I don't expect it. I only want you to know that even though I lied to your face, and even though I let you carry the weight of this in silence, I am sorry. Truly. You didn't deserve any of this. And I will carry that guilt with me for a very long time. I hope you find peace. And I hope someday you look back and remember the good parts of us too. Harper. I sat with the letter in my lap for a long time. I didn't cry. I didn't slam anything. I just read it again. And then one more time. It was raw. More honest than I ever expected her to be. And yet, it didn't change a thing. The facts didn't shift. The wound didn't shrink. Her words weren't a bandage. They were just the final cut. I believed her for once. I believed that she was sorry, that she knew the depth of what she'd destroyed. But the apology came like a postcard from a place I no longer wanted to visit. It was late. It was faded. And it didn't change where I was now. The next day, I filed the divorce paperwork with the county clerk. No resistance. No delays. Harper had signed her name, and I signed mine underneath it. And that was it. 7 years, closed in a manila folder. 2 signatures, binding the end. I walked out of the courthouse feeling lighter than I thought I would. Not free, not yet, but no longer held hostage by what-ifs or what used to be. The past had been boxed, labeled, and filed away under legal record. The rest was up to me. A week later, I rented a small one-bedroom in a quieter part of the city. New walls. New windows. No ghosts. I filled the space with things that felt like mine, plants, old records, a couch that didn't sag in the middle. I bought new plates. Threw out the ones Harper and I had picked together. Got a dog from the shelter. A scrappy little mutt I named Jasper, who didn't care about broken marriages or what anyone used to be. I started waking up earlier. Running again. Reading books I had put off for years. And slowly, without ceremony, I began to return to myself. The version of me that existed before the lies. Before the guilt. Before I made excuses for someone else's chaos. And in the quiet moments, when the air was still and the city was asleep, I sometimes found myself thinking back. Not with longing. Not with pain. But with acceptance. She made her choices. And I made mine. You don't wake up one day and feel healed. There's no switch. No banner in the sky that says, "Congratulations, you've moved on." It doesn't happen like that. Healing, I've learned, is quiet. It happens in the small, ordinary moments, the ones you'd never think to celebrate. Like the first time you laugh, and it doesn't feel forced. Or when you fold laundry without suddenly remembering how you used to divide hers from yours. Or when you go out to eat and don't instinctively glance at your phone, expecting an explanation for why someone's late. It took me months to reach that place. Not because I was holding on, but because I was sorting through the mess, not just of what Harper did, but of what I allowed. The slow erosion of trust. The excuses I gave her. The way I silenced my own instincts because I didn't want to seem jealous, needy, insecure. Turns out, your gut doesn't whisper for no reason. It screams in silence when your heart refuses to listen. After the divorce was finalized, I kept to myself. Not out of bitterness, but because I needed to hear my own voice again. I didn't want to rebound. Didn't want someone else to fix me. I wasn't broken, just bruised in places I hadn't looked at in a while. I picked up small gigs again, freelance development jobs from long-time clients who never asked personal questions. Work was steady, predictable, clean. My new place was modest, nothing fancy. Just enough for me and Jasper, my rescue mutt, who quickly became the best roommate I'd ever had. He didn't talk much, didn't ask me to explain myself, didn't care what I had lost. He just sat at my feet every morning while I made coffee and followed me around like I was his entire world. That kind of loyalty hits different when you've been lied to. One Thursday afternoon, while out walking Jasper near the lake, I ran into Micah. We hadn't spoken in a few weeks, not since he helped unravel the truth Harper had tried to bury. He looked surprised to see me, but also relieved. "You look good, man," he said. "Feel better than I did a month ago," I replied. We talked for a bit, walking side by side as Jasper sniffed every tree like it held a secret. Micah told me Harper had transferred to another team in her firm quietly. No announcement, no goodbye drinks. Just moved. "She's laying low," he said. Word got around. I didn't ask for details. I didn't need them. Whatever fallout she faced wasn't mine to dwell on anymore. "I don't know if I ever said this," Micah continued, "but I'm sorry for what you went through. I just didn't want to stay quiet." I clapped a hand on his shoulder. "You didn't just speak up. You helped me see clearly. That matters more than you know." He nodded, and after a few more steps, we parted ways. That night, I sat on my balcony with a glass of bourbon and watched the city lights blink like they were breathing. The air was crisp, not cold. Jasper lay curled beside my chair, snoring softly. I looked out over the skyline, the sound of distant traffic humming beneath the stars, and for the first time in a long time, I felt okay. Not happy, not yet, but steady, and that was more valuable than joy. People kept asking me, friends, even family, what I'd learned from it all, what the takeaway was, and I never gave them the poetic answer they seemed to expect. Because the truth isn't wrapped in metaphors. It's carved in the choices you make afterward. I learned that love without honesty is just performance. I learned that silence isn't always noble. Sometimes it's the space where lies thrive. I learned that peace isn't found in forgiveness or revenge. It's found in boundaries. And most of all, I learned that being the calm one doesn't mean letting yourself be walked over. It means knowing when to rise without yelling, when to leave without slamming doors, when to let go without making a scene. I didn't burn her things. I didn't curse her name. I didn't write a bitter post or plot revenge. I just walked away, with dignity, with truth, and with every part of myself that she tried to minimize. One evening, about 6 months later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, but the handwriting was familiar. I almost tossed it out, but curiosity tugged at me. Inside was a single page. "Grant, I saw a photo of you the other day. Someone had posted it. Maybe Micah, maybe Jason. You look calm, lighter." It made me happy and gutted me at the same time. I know I said a lot in my last letter, and I don't expect a response. But if you ever wonder whether I understood the weight of what I lost, know that I do now. I lost a man who didn't just love me, but who honored me, even when I didn't deserve it. That kind of grace is rare. Thank you for holding a mirror up to my choices. It changed me. I hope you find someone who never makes you question if you're enough. I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer, not out of sentimentality,